Foundation 45 is a 501c3 nonprofit that funds counseling services for mental health, addiction, and suicide survivors. In addition to providing services, it works to break the stigma surrounding these topics. Foundation 45 recognizes that musicians, artists, and creative types are often at a higher risk for issues with mental health and addiction. The organization's goal is to serve the Dallas-Fort Worth creative community by providing free, top-tier mental health and recovery services. You can learn more about Foundation 45 at foundation45.org. Foundation 45. Live fast, die old. I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast. So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all for us? Yeah. This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, we have singer Richard Haskins. Haskins grew up in Sherman, and his Texas roots run as deep as his musical ones. You might have heard of his Denton-based punk band, the Wee Beasties, and if you have, you might have seen him naked. Haskins can be a polarizing figure, but in this conversation, he's extremely candid about his health, being sober, and his music. We also dig into how his attempted bank robbery led to a singular bonding night with his father, and then, of course, jail. I found this chat very inspiring, not at all what I expected. I think you're going to really enjoy this chat with Richard Haskins. We are back at the Deep Ellum Community Center in Dallas Famous, and we've got Richard Haskins today, singer of Wee Beasties, among other things. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, brother. It's really cool to have me, man. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. So, okay. God, so many questions. To start with, because this is the first time I'm meeting you.
Yeah, for sure.
I've not seen you in this many clothes.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I hear that all the fucking time.
Yeah.
That's like, like one of the most common, and then people will just be like, sometimes I'll just be like, oh yeah, I'm in the Wee Beasties if like, we're talking about music or some shit, and that's like one of the first things that comes up. They're like, oh my God, you're, like, yeah.
It's kind of like me not having a camera. People are, who are you?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. If I'm not in a fucking leopard print Speedo, nobody knows who the fuck I am.
Well, I mean, so when did that start from you? I mean, I feel like I saw a post where you said it was like from the beginning, but like how, where, why?
Well, when I was, I think I might have just turned 17. I lied to my mom and I told her I was going to church camp for 2 weeks, and I printed out like a pamphlet like from the computer, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to this church camp. I need $200 in cash, right? And like, but really we'd used Maximum Rock and Roll and like booked this fucking like week-long tour, like a Dirty South tour.
Oh wow!
And so I kept my mom was really diligent, so I kept like a fake journal of like things that were happening at fucking church camp and shit. And like, and then so when we played in one of the shows was in New Orleans, and when we played there, the bartender, I guess, who was checking us in, we were all like 17, 18, and the bartender who was checking us in, just jokingly, she was like, "Are you guys that band where the singer plays naked?" And my fucking guitar player was like, "Yo, yeah, for sure." And I was like, God damn it. And so like, but like we were wild kids, like on tour and shit. So it was like our first time really like away from home. It was like a fucking crazy experience. So I was like, fuck it, dude, I'll do it. And I remember like, I just put on my clothes, like I took all my clothes off like in the bathroom, and like the one that, I had it to where like when the band started, I just fucking kicked the door open and ran through the crowd, just like bare ass naked, which I'm 17, so it was illegal, but like,
it's legal now.
Yeah. But, so I played naked, and then I did it, and it got a crazy response, and just the huge mosh pit. New Orleans is always fucking nuts for punk rock. Yeah. And so, I did that the next show, which was like in Houston, and I was like, fuck, I'm not always going to be able to be naked. So the idea, I guess, was to like be as naked as I possibly could.
Right.
And so for a long time before I started getting real fat, like I just like, like I would just wear like women's panties and women's underwear, which is like tough because they're not made to hold external genitalia, so have to use duct tape and things like that. That was just really uncomfortable. So eventually I switched to Speedos just because it made.
Okay. Yeah, my girlfriend was like, "Are those his panties?"
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Dude, I've only bought maybe one pair. Like people give them to me all the fucking time.
That I believe.
Yeah, people bring them to shows all the time, and it's just like, and I used to be in the habit of like when we get done, COVID, I don't know what the hell COVID did to nudity, but like it seems like there was just so many walls. It was like, well, you're wearing a mask, so it's like maybe I shouldn't expose my genitals. But so it used to be like at the end of the show, I would we would carry a hammer and nails with this, so I'd fucking take the panties off, and nail them to the fucking wall of the venue, and a lot of venues we'll just keep them up. Like there's one hanging up right now at 924 Gilman still, over when we from this last tour.
Oh wow, that's leaving your mark.
Yeah, right.
That's hilarious.
Well, it just kind of looks like, hey, Wee Beasties have been here type thing,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm actually surprised I haven't caught you live. I've seen photos of you for a while. I've actually published photos of yours.
Oh wow,
Richard Chickering's photos. But it just seems like a wild time. It's not like it's a lot of people, right?
Yeah, it's tough to make money doing it just because you have a lot of people. But the thing is, I never got into it for money, and so I think we played for 2 fucking solid years before we had a paid gig, and I was kind of shocked. I was like, you can get paid for doing this? That fucking shit blew my mind.
Right.
So and nowadays it's we're getting older, so we get paid a lot more now, but it's still with 10 people, it's fucking you're covering your bar tab and hopefully getting some gas money on the way home if you split it that way, but. We kind of work like a collective to where we just throw it all in together, and everybody. It's weird. It's a cool band to be in just because I know that there's I know bands with fucking 3 people in them that they don't like each other enough and can't hang out with each other enough to get in a fucking van and go play somewhere, and it's crazy, and the 10 of us any 2 people in the band could be hanging out with each other. Everybody's just really tight and good friends. And when you're on the road and it's you're fucking really, really in close quarters, it's nobody's ever sore with each other and everybody's just super chill. So
cool.
Yeah.
Are you guys actively writing? Is there more stuff coming?
Yeah, for sure. Kind of I went through I'm in a strange period in my life. That's always kind of the constant for me is Wee Beasties for sure. I've always done other musical things too, but that's just such a fun fucking band to be in. But so we usually have periods of where we're not playing as much, but we're writing and recording, and that's kind of what we're doing now. We had a single come out in October, but we're working on a new record, and this last record was such an undertaking. It was 16 songs, and just a lot of work. And so and the thing is too, whenever with a band with 10 people, when you write a song, you're not just writing a fucking song. You're writing a song for 10 fucking people to play. So you have to really think about what every person's doing, and it gets easier actually as you go, just because you kind of recognize where people are the strongest at. It's oh man, that dude can do this here, or she can do that here.
So it's a collaborative writing process.
Yeah, for sure. I'm by far the main songwriter, but so I kind of write the chords and the lyrics, and I'll bring them to the band,
orchestrate it.
And then I'll be man, it'll either be I have an idea for this, but I don't really know where it's going, or here's this horn part, and then we'll kind of just work it out together. But you can't really. Every tribe needs a chief, you know what I mean? Because it would be fucking complete chaos if we've tried to write songs fully together, and it is a goddamn mess. So it's usually better if somebody. But the other band, especially on this new record, that we're working on, has been they've all been stepping up their game on the writing stuff, because there's just a wealth of good musicians in the band too that can also write. So it would be a shame to not do that. Even on this last record, I wrote a song for our drummer to sing, because he had such a good voice. And I was like, dude, why are we not using this? I don't mind fucking stepping back on a song and letting you sing. That's fucking rad, The Beatles did it with Ringo, shit,
Everybody does it.
Yeah.
It's a good singer and drummer.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel I do this sometimes. I get all excited, and then let's go backwards a little bit.
For sure.
For you. So where are you from?
I was born in Sherman, Texas, and I was born there. I grew up in Denton until I was 10. I grew up in a house that my great-great-grandfather had built after the Civil War. So it was a really old school Texas house. And the land, the bulk of the land in that area originally was my three greats grandfather was his portrait hangs in the state capitol building. He was the last living participant of the Battle of San Jacinto.
Oh,
and
wow.
and then the Republic of Texas didn't have any money to pay all their soldiers, so they paid them all in land. And so he got 5 leagues of land. I think a league is like 1,120 acres or something like that.
Wow.
So he got to pick just 5 of them. We still own one of them that's it's now in New Mexico, but it was Republic of Texas at the time. And so, anyways, I was growing up in this, I got deep Texas roots, and I was growing up in this house until I was like 10. My parents got divorced, and I started eating hamburgers, getting all fucking fat. My mom married some dude, I moved to Denton, and I hated it. I fucking hated it. I couldn't stand it. I didn't know anybody. I had a fucking thick Texas accent, and Denton's like a college town, so it was not like that at all. And so I was kind of an outcast, and then I slowly started discovering that there was like art and music everywhere in that town, and I was like, fuck, dude, that's like, I want to do this. And I remember getting my first guitar there, and thank God there wasn't fucking cell phones back then. I'd be just dicking around on my fucking phone.
Right. So, wait, how old were you at this point when you were at Denton?
I came to Denton when I was 10, and then I got my guitar when I was like 13.
So, okay, so it may be in the house, not in Denton, but like, what was the first like kind of music that was striking you?
My dad, my grandmother was a music teacher for like 50 years.
Oh, wow.
And so anytime I was at her house, like I'd always just be pounding on the piano and stuff, and she'd always kind of get on to me because she was trying to teach me to read music, and like I would just memorize the things that she was showing me, and then would play them, and then she would fucking put a different sheet of music down, and I would have no idea what the fuck was going on. So she'd always get on to me about that. But and then so I was a whistler too. I don't know what I have a really, really pretty whistle.
I mean, go for it.
It's an Irish, it's called Planxty Irwin. It's like an Irish song.
Nice.
It's not great now because my lips are all dry and shit, but I can do all the vibrato and shit. I can actually hum and whistle at the same time. Yeah. Really weird shit. So I started, I was like, I didn't have an instrument. The piano was at my grandmother's house. So, I begged my parents for like a couple years for a guitar, and then finally, like, I got a fucking J.C. Penney. My mom finally got me like a J.C. Penney's guitar, like out of the fucking, or maybe it was a Sears catalog guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And like it had like a little built-in fucking amplifier.
Oh, right.
And I was like, fuck, what the fuck? But I played that goddamn thing till my fucking fingers bled. And I had one lesson. There was a guy in Denton named Fritz Schwalm who still lives there. And he had me show, and my mom was like, you need to take a lesson. And she had me show up. And really what he taught me how to tune the guitar, which was important. Mm-hmm. And so then I learned that, and then he had me bring like some music to show him like what I wanted to learn. But he was trying to teach me like fucking jazz scales and like blues riffs, and I was like, fuck this, dude. And so finally I brought like the Misfits like Collection 1 and like the first Ramones record. That's what I was into like at the time. And he was like, oh, that's just power chords. And showed me that. And I had a band like a month later. It's like, oh, you can just move these up and down the neck? Fuck yeah. And I didn't learn until like maybe 3 years into playing guitar, like, oh, if you put a third in there, it'll determine whether it's like a major or minor chord. Because it's sort of, with power chords, it's just kind of not, there's no third, so you don't really, just the first and the octave and the fifth. So it's just kind of ambiguous as to whether or not it is. So you can kind of get around it really easy, so it took me a long time. Then once I discovered thirds, I was like, oh man, this is cool. And then I just picked stuff up like after a while. I remember somebody was like doing like that kind of metal crunch. And I was like, how the fuck are you doing that? And they're like, oh dude, you just rest your palm like at the back of the guitar and hit the string. Whoa, palm mute. Like that's insane. And just slowly picking stuff up. And it's just, you can kind of like over the years, even like if you listen to really early Wee Beasties recording, you kind of hear me like learn. You can kind of hear us all learn instruments. That
sure makes sense.
Yeah, which like it's cool because you'll pick up one like small thing, like even just like weird like little things, like just the in punk everything's like in 4/4. And I remember like the first time I like really like somebody really explained like a 6/8 beat to me. I fucking wrote like 5 or 6 songs like immediately that had that. You know, it's like, holy shit, that's cool. You know,
Yeah, cool.
I love just those little things that inspire you like all the time. And I mean, it's not just those little things you learn; it's just the people around you too. You know, I mean, like every one of my friends they're all in my songs. You know, like there's a little piece of them like somewhere here and there, and it's just like you just take what's around you and just fucking amplify it. You know, and
Sure. So then, okay, so you got a guitar, you learned power chords, you started a band.
Immediately,
What was that band?
What was my first band called? I think I think we were called. I'm not even really sure if we had a full name. We were basically just doing Misfits covers.
Okay.
I think we might have been called Devil Lock, which was like the Misfits haircut. And we played like a garage show and then like a show like at the Denton Civic Center for some party, and like that was not, punk rock was so not cool whenever I first was getting into it.
Like over kind of.
Yeah, people were like, yeah, it was totally over, and nobody knew who the fuck the Misfits were. Like nothing had happened. Like at least my age, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't until like, you know, that big Metallica couple covers that they were doing had like really come out, and like everybody like, holy fuck, like that's, you know, that kind of, and then the skull shirt, you could get it at Hot Topic, you know.
Right.
And then it was like, then it sucked being a punk rocker like in high school, because then it was like, it kind of had this weird wave of it had blown back, but it was like, oh, you're punk rock like Avril Lavigne, and you're like, dude, like what the fuck? Like, do you guys like listen to like SR-71? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, no, dude. Like, I'm still listening to Black Flag like it's fucking 1983. Like,
Right.
what the fuck are you talking about?
That's
you know?
hilarious,
Yeah. So but it made it easier to get gigs though, because you're like, oh, you're a punk band like Blink-182. Like, yeah, that's what we're like, you know. And
that's funny because I was just talking to Jarrett from Bowling for Soup.
oh, dude, I love that dude. Yeah,
he's great, and he was saying how when they started, there was like nothing, like nobody knew what to do with them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, especially they were like from Wichita Falls too. I mean, like, which is a trip, because when we play there, it's packed. It's packed every fucking time that we play there, because there's nothing to fucking do in Wichita Falls, I guess.
I'm sure there's a lot of.
But there's like a cool
that.
scene there. There's like some cool bands. There's It Hurts to Be Dead. Have you checked that band out? Man, we have them come play with us all the time, and they make that drive all the time for house shows, any of that shit, dude.
Nice.
They're just so eager to kind of get out of that fucking town, and they're so rad, dude. And it's like, yeah, man, I love playing in like kind of the smaller towns like that too. That's like, you know, when you go on tour, you always want to hit like the big places. Like, let's hit Chicago, but dude, fucking hit Aurora. You know what I mean? Like you know, like playing kind of like the outskirts. Bro, we played a fucking show one time. We had a show in Oklahoma City get canceled, and I just hit up the Oklahoma punk rock page. It was like, dude, you know, we got this date canceled. It's like a week away. Like, is there anything going on that we can get on? And these kids hit us up in a town called Shawnee, Oklahoma. And we're like, you know, they're like, yeah, come play at the fucking VFW. Like, we throw these punk shows there, and we're like, dude, when we showed up, it was like the fucking Beatles were there. Like the whole town had come out. Dude, the mayor like talked about us on his blog. Like,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. They were having like, sign my drumstick. You're like, I'm not the drummer, but sure. You know, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was super nuts. So sometimes when you play like, so you know, those like smaller towns, it's like fucking like they're much more, because there's nothing going on. And if like a, you know, they still hit us up all the time, like, please come back, like, please come back.
I mean,
I actually dropped their name, and yeah, we go back. We're gonna go on a tour in February, and we have a Tulsa date, but I'm trying to talk the band into hitting Shawnee like on the way out. But it's like, you know, it's just like. I mean, and I remember like when cool bands, you know, Denton's not, I guess not like a small town, but it is a suburb, you know, of Dallas, and so. I remember like being a teenager and like, you know, like Casualties or something like that coming through and playing at a fucking skate shop, and like what a big deal that was, you know, and like, and so it's just, I love that whole thing. And then you have like a ton of kids that come out, and we have a song called Shotgunning Beers in the Parking Lot, and that's like been on the radio and stuff, and it's kind of like, which is, you know, kind of was like one of those big punk shout anthems, and
sure.
And so I put Shawnee in there, the name of it in there, in one of the lines, and they were. I posted that on their like Shawnee, like what's happening Shawnee page. Everybody fucking went ape shit for it. It was so nuts. Yeah,
that's cool. We should definitely tag them in this.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure.
I just get this random question because I don't doubt you do this to be a role model, and like a lot of people probably think that's crazy. But like, do you have people come up and say you've inspired me musically or stage wise?
Yeah, that happens a lot. That's actually been happening like a lot more lately since I stopped being such a fucking blackout, fall down drunk too. Yeah, I mean, some of that stuff happens, and I see people like that do stuff like it's mostly like on like the like local level, like that'll do stuff that like I'm like, okay, that's an exact, like it's like some band that like, well, there was a band pretty recently that like, the singer started doing the fucking taking the clothes off, and our last album was called Party With Us, and like they were putting out a record called Come Party With Us, and I was like,
weird.
Wow, okay.
That's a little too close. Probably.
Real close. And it was like the same font and shit too, and I was like, dude, come okay. But I mean, like it's when you see people like when you hear people say that like, so okay. One of the bands that I grew up listening to and being really, really inspired by was a band called the Riverboat Gamblers.
Yeah.
And like,
I just saw them.
And Mike Wiebe and those dudes. In fact, I don't tell this story very often, but so when I was first really starting to be in a band, this is back when you could fucking open up the phone book and find someone's name and call them, right? And so I remember one of the first punk shows I went to, they had a band before that called Kid Chaos. And they actually had 2 trumpets in the band. And that was the first time it had occurred to me that you could have a punk rock band with horns in it. You know what I mean? And like, they weren't ska, which, we do some kind of ska-y things every once in a while, but nobody would call us a ska band, you know? No. And so that inspired me. And like, I just remember him being really crazy on stage. Like, I remember seeing him walk across the crowd because the crowd was so thick. And the shit just blew my mind. And I remember like being like a 14, 15-year-old kid, and like I was like, that dude's name is Mike Wiebe. I met him at that show, opened up the fucking phone book, found his name, called him, and I was like, hey, my name is Richard Haskins, and I'm starting a band, and like can you teach me, like, can I call you sometime and just for like advice? And he taught me how to get shows. I mean, he taught me like one of the first things was like, because this is back when you called a place, a lot of places didn't even take fucking emails at that time,
right?
So you called to talk to the booker, and he was like, first question out of your mouth needs to be, what's your capacity here? Because if they're thinking like, oh shit, you're worried about how many people you can fit here, that's the kind of band that they're going to want to get. And then once you get the fucking show, like fill the place up, like hoof it, get out in the street, pass out fucking flyers. You're in high school, dude. Just fucking, there's 500 fucking people there that you can pass out posters to.
Sure.
And I mean, that's what we did, and people always came out to the shows, and it was always packed. And like, I would call him like all the time just to like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing, or how does this work? Or like, what do you do here? I remember like, this place wants a demo. I don't even know how to record us. And he was like, send them a blank CD. They might not even fucking listen to it. And I can't tell you how many fucking shows that we got from blank CDs. He was like, even if they fucking don't even know, even if they try to listen and it's blank, just tell them that you thought it was a bad burn or whatever, and they'll probably even give you a show anyways.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember because I'm older than you, and so I remember there was one time in LA where we're sending our cassettes off to people, and it was like a friend's band. So I was already in with this one promoter. It was a friend's band. And I kept bugging him, and finally I called him, and he was like, what's their name again? And I heard him. He put the tape on. He played it for 2 seconds, turned it off. He's like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, why did you should have just said yes when I asked the first. I guess it's one of they didn't totally suck, I guess. I don't know what the line was there. But
that shit happens, dude. I mean, especially like.
That's a great I love that, though.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, like there was all kinds of tricks like that. Like, oh, man. What was the other trick he was trying to... there's just a bunch of
around that long, though.
Dude, yeah. I mean, like, I remember... Yeah, they've been around for a while, because, I was initially into their... They had a band... Kid Chaos was by far the band that I was way into. And they had a great record called Love in the Time of Scurvy. It was really cool. And, like... and Riverboat Gamblers had kind of like a... And the other thing, too, was Mike also worked at a... Wiebe also worked at the record store that was on Fry Street and did called the X, and like, so I would kind of like go in, and I'd be like, man, I don't know any of these bands, like, and he would be like, oh, dude, I remember he was one of the first people to tell me about the Misfits, and I remember, like, check out this band, check out Black Flag, like, oh, by the way, I've got a band called Chopsockies that has a record here. He always had a bunch of bands and shit going. They always had 7 inches. Right. Or check out the Reds, which that band ended up turning into the Marked Men later, and I got into all these bands just through that and stuff. But anyway, so the whole point of the deal was it was like, I remember being so inspired by him, and people like that, the older bands, because the thing is, dude, when we were young kids, especially like starting off, there was a class of like older bands that you'd play with that were kind of fucking douchebags, really. You know what I mean? They just, hey kid, blah blah blah, just treat you like
sure. And
they'd be pissed because you'd bring a ton of people,
right?
Like they're pissed because there's this fucking little kids band who's bringing fucking 200 people to the show, and those guys brought 20.
Yeah. Well, and also all high school bands usually bring all their friends.
Yeah, I mean that's just the way it works. Just because people are so jazzed that like, what, my buddy's in a band,
it's fun to watch those.
Yeah,
kids.
for sure. And I mean but there was also the class of bands like the Gamblers and a lot of those other bands that would kind of cheer you on. They were just like, hey man, here's how you book a tour, here's how you do this, and like. I always wanted to be that guy, to other bands too. And so I get emails a lot or Facebook messages and things like that from people in other bands who are like, hey, especially when it's like the younger dudes, you could see how hungry they are, and like they want it. And I love, helping them get, hey man, do you guys want to play over here with us at Three Links? Or hey, do you guys want to, just getting them on something. And then that first way in the door, they always can, hey, can we play here? Because we play at, we play over here, we play at Rubber Gloves, we play at Three Links, and then they're like, oh, sweet, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's
as soon as your name's on a poster, it's totally like you're off and running,
That's cool that you do that too, because I mean, it's just dumb to think that like if we put another band down, we're gonna do better. It's like, no, like you need the whole scene to come up together.
I don't know what the fuck that is, and I've encountered that so much. Where it's like sometimes other bands they want you to do well, but not better than they are. You know what I mean? And like, dude, fuck that. Like, I want all my friends to fucking everybody around me. I want you to smack a goddamn homer.
Yeah, same.
Because we're on the same fucking team. If you smack a homer, you're smacking it for all of us.
Yeah.
Now here's this rad band that are buddies of ours that we get to fucking play with. You know what I mean? It's awesome. Like
for me, I'm like, I want any of these bands to succeed.
For sure.
Tour to Red Rocks.
Yeah, dude, exactly. You know what I mean? It's cool just watching that go down.
So you kind of mentioned it before. You I'll just say it. You had a little bit of reputation, but you got clean. I was like, is that because of a health thing, or is that just because...
Well, I mean, it needed to happen anyways, and I'd been thinking about it for a while. I was like a fucking notorious, like... I mean, I remember my doctor, before I even came down with a gnarly, I ended up in the hospital with fucking diabetes. I didn't even know I had it and shit.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, even like I remember like the year before that, I'd just gotten health insurance. And I was like, man, I'm approaching 40. I might need to start thinking about, winding it down a little bit, at least pumping the brakes, and so, I remember he was like, so, what do you drink? And I was like, I don't drink unless I'm like at a show or playing a show,
right.
But I'm always, I'm doing that a lot, so.
A lot.
So, but I don't even keep beer in the. I've never kept like beer in the house or like liquor or anything like that. So it was always been like a fucking binge drinker, So,
gotcha.
If I wasn't rehearsing or around anybody, I fucking wasn't touching it. Unless I was like going out, so I'd drink socially, you know what I mean? But yeah. And so I remember he was like, well, "What do you drink at shows?" I was like, "Oh." But, usually before I go on stage, 12 to 16 beers, like Tall Boy Lone Stars, and maybe like a handful of shots. And he was like, before you go on stage? I was like, yeah. He's like, and you're able to function and perform? I was like, I fucking guess so. Like, it's like, well, what do you do after? It's like, well, then I party.
Oh
like,
my
God. It was like,
true Texan, man.
Yeah, I know. And it was just like, I didn't really think about it too much until like, I started, man, it was just weird. Like, I was kind of noticing that I was getting some, weird things like, dude, my fucking doctor that I had, like, I just went with the first one who would take my insurance, like, who had a fucking open appointment. So I didn't field anybody, you know?
Right, yeah.
And so, you know, all my complaints were like things that were clearly diabetes, but like, hey man, bottoms of my feet are starting to tingle and kind of go numb and shit, you know, like, oh, you're just getting old, you know, that happens as you get old.
Yeah, don't get me started on doctor.
You know, here's some gabapentin, you know, that'll help that like pain and burning sensation to go away a little bit. Like, okay. And you know, like, oh, hey, you know, fucking my eyes are suddenly getting blurry. Like, oh yeah, you're getting old again, you know, like you just fucking shit like that. And so finally, like, I had some blood work done and it had been a couple weeks and I hadn't heard from him. So I was like, well, that's probably a good sign, you know? You know, and so, and this is like this during the summer, it was like August, you know, I don't know what it was, dude, for like, I woke up and for like 2 or 3 days, I had an unquenchable thirst, a completely unquenchable thirst. I mean, it was like 107 degrees outside, so that's just kind of what I figured it was. But dude, I was chugging water, you know, I could drink a gallon in a sitting, and like chugging water, and pissing constantly, and like I could not quench my thirst. And so finally, like after a couple of days of this shit, my mom had me go drive her up to Denton because she was having her doctor was up there and she was having her gallbladder removed, you know, so she was in surgery. And as she was in surgery, I like just posted on Facebook. I was like, God damn, dude, I can't wait for fucking summer to be over. Like, I'm so thirsty. Like, I cannot stop chugging water. Like, it is like nobody's business. Gatorade water, can't fucking stop. And like, I had a buddy of mine hit me up. He was like, hey, you know, man, that's a sign of diabetes. I was like, fuck you, dude. I don't have diabetes. You know, I just have fucking blood work from my doctor. You know, like, he didn't say shit about that. So I got to thinking about it and started putting 2 and 2 together. And I was like, man, maybe I'm gonna check on that blood work. So I called him and I was like, hey, you know, what's going on with that blood work? And like, oh, well, we'll see about it. And 4 or 5 hours later, my mom's out of surgery and shit. I'm like driving her back. She was hungry after surgery and like taking her goddamn Subway or some shit. So I'm like eating at Subway and they call me back. They're like, oh yeah, you have like untreated diabetes. And I was like, holy fuck. I'm like sitting there goddamn drinking a fucking a Fanta soda. I'm like, right. What the fuck? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean I have untreated diabetes? Like, what do I need to do about this shit? And they're like, oh, just come back like next week and we'll give you some more tests. I was like, no. I mean, like, what do I do about the fucking fact that I've had diabetes for at least 2 weeks and you guys haven't even fucking called me? So my mom was like, hey, I've got your grandfather's old glucometer, you know, so I went to her place, you know, drove to her place and she tested my blood sugar and it was like 600. And I was like, is this good? You know, like, what is it? You know, she's like, Richard, it's supposed to be 100 and you're supposed to go to the hospital at 300. I was like, okay, jeez. Well, that's not good. No. You know, so I went to they had to fucking put EKGs and shit on me. I went to the emergency room. I knew something was wrong because I've been in the emergency room fucking get cut open before and like having to wait, you know, like an hour, you know, and like they immediately took me fucking back after they did some quick blood work and they put EKGs on me like, you've been urinating a lot? I was like, fuck yeah, I can't stop drinking water, I can't stop pissing. They're like, well, we can't even give you fucking insulin right now because it, like, I guess grabs potassium. They're like, you've pissed all the potassium out of your body. If we give you insulin, your heart's going to stop. You know, I was like, Jesus. Yeah, and the fucking nurse was just like, she was so just candid and just matter of fact. She's like, hey, I'm just letting you know, at any moment your eyes might roll in the back of your head. You might go into a coma and you might not wake up from it. Just letting you know. I was like, holy fucking shit. That's some bedside manner. So I kind of had like the fear of God like put in me, you know, and honestly, that first fucking thing I did was I called everybody that I could get a hold of that I'd ever had crosswords with. You know, I knew everybody that I loved, already knew that I loved them. But you know, if I was gonna die, I wanted to fucking talk to some fucking people that like, you know, like, hey man, I'm sorry I said this to you, or I didn't really mean it, you know, or I'm sorry this went that way, you know, type shit. And, you know, it's actually kind of, some of the people were not cool about it, but you know, the bulk of them were like, dude, you know, like, I mean, we have much better relationships now, like actually have relationships now and stuff. So a lot of really good stuff came out of it. You know, I quit fucking being a goddamn fall down drunk, started watching when I eat, started to exercise, take care of myself. I got a better relationships with everybody in my life. That's fantastic. And I mean, even like just from a performance aspect too, like one thing that my band, all of them like immediately noticed, you know, they were like, dude, like, you know, usually when we're playing shows, by the end of it, you're pretty fucking gassed. You know, you're pretty not, you know, you're just wanting to kind of fucking pass out, you know. You know, you're fucking ready to go for more now. And it's just, and I've got just like the hunger for it more too. And it's like, it's different. I have to think a lot more about like things like, because, you know, I'm used to being on stage and being pretty fucking loaded and being but being really in the moment and just like really spontaneous. And now I kind of have to like, you know, I remember the first sober show, my first like thought, well, you know, I was like, what the fuck is everybody looking at me? You know what I mean? It was like, I swear to God, it was like such a weird feeling.
Yeah, because you're like aware all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's just hyper aware. And then I was so worried that I wasn't going to be, I thought my career was over. You know, I was like, fuck, am I going to be able to do this?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And one thing that immediately was not noticeable too is that like my ability to create music, I thought that was going to be hindered from not being fucked up all the time, you know, and like, but it actually made it a lot easier to like remember stuff, you know, and to like put together cognitive thoughts. So it turns out like it really wasn't the booze and the drugs and shit that were helping me. Cause I mean, dude, I was fucking like, dude, I mean, it was like a problem. I remember when our fucking record came out, like the 12-inch, I put fucking cocaine around the whole rim of the record and like stuck it on the goddamn player and like had to go by to start lines off of it like while it was playing. You know what I mean? Like I was like out of control, dude.
Yeah,
you know, like
that's a lot.
And you know, it was just, and the thing is like at the time I didn't really realize like how much that shit really was like affecting me. I thought that I needed it, and it wasn't like. I didn't have any fucking problems like stopping after that shit though. You know what I mean? Like, sure. I do miss smoking pot, which I could totally smoke pot, but like, you know, I'm dieting and shit. So it's like, it makes me so goddamn hungry. Yeah, it's like unenjoyable. But I mean, you know, like sometimes you just have to have those kind of big moments. And like, you know, a lot of those things have happened in my life that have been like that like, you know, like even the robbing a fucking bank thing, like, you know, like, and having to go to prison over that shit, like that was fucking miserable. But like so many good things came out of that like, it's hard to be fucking upset, you know, like, cause it's like, you have to be happy in life with like, as equally happy about the fucking really awesome things as like the super shitty fucking things, because they're all learning experiences and they're all those fucking things that like are a part of, you know, they're different fucking wings of the same bird, you know, and it's just like, you have to just kind of, if you don't, they're only valueless if you don't learn anything from them. Sure, you know what I mean? Sure. So, and sometimes I've noticed that in my life, like a lot of the lessons that I've had to learn have been really, really tough learned. Like I had to go through some really tough shit in order to learn that thing, you know, and like, that's fine.
I think that's human nature in a lot of ways. I mean, you know, I think my dad used to say you can learn by putting your hand in the fire, or you can watch someone else do it. But I was always like, sometimes you have to put your hand in the fire too. Yeah, for sure. You know, you can't get that. It's what it is watching someone else do it sometimes. Yeah,
that's the kind of shit that just gets burned on the surface of your mind. You know, where you're just like, that's why I don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
man, should we talk about the bank story?
Sure, man.
I mean, I know it's out there, but
yeah, it is. Man, I'll just tell you, like, I was in like the fucking. At the time when I thought, like looking back on it, you know, I was just, everything was just super heavy in my life. I was just so fucking depressed and I just irresponsible and hadn't taken care of a number of things. And I felt like, and then at the same time when you're feeling like complete shit and then your shows are packed and people are, it's a fucking strange dichotomy. You know what I mean? When I mean that during that time period, I would cry when we would get off stage, like just because I felt so goddamn alone and so empty, and it was just a combination of like a ton of things in my life. And man, I'll be honest, like I'd gotten to the point where I was really, 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 really thinking about killing myself, and like, I'd kind of tried, you know, to make that happen like a couple times, and I realized that I was not going to be able to do that, you know, and a lot of heavy things were going on, and I didn't wake up that fucking day thinking I was going to rob a bank. You know what I mean? There was no plan. And I dropped my girlfriend off at work, and she was crying about how like I didn't ever have any fucking money, and you know I was a piece of shit, and all those things that just happen. You know, sometimes I was a piece of shit. You know, I mean, for what I wanted out of life, I was so far from it. You know, and like I saw this fucking bank across the street, this Wells Fargo, and I thought, man, either they're gonna give me money, or the cops are going to kill me. And that was a lot of what I was thinking about. I was thinking that like maybe I'd cause like a big scene there and you know, pop out of the car and pretend to have a gun or something. Maybe a cop would shoot me, you know. And so I didn't want to go in because I didn't want to get trapped in the fucking bank. I wanted to die, dude. I just wanted to fucking die. And like, so I just drove through the drive-thru and I just like wrote them this fucking note. You know, it wasn't even a threatening note. It was just like, give me all of your money or I'm gonna come inside. Like whatever the fuck that means, you know. Right. And so, I remember the teller getting kind of scared. I remember also the fucking Steve Miller. Is it Steve Miller Band? That goddamn "Take the Money and Run" song. That shit was playing on the fucking radio. Yeah. So I mean, that was a kind of a goofy aspect of it. But I remember the teller kind of getting a little scared. Once she asked if it was a joke, and I said no, ma'am. I was polite. I wasn't mean or threatening. And everybody started acting really scared. And I remember in my mind, I'm thinking like, what the fuck are they scared of? Like I'm Richard. You know, like I'm not a fucking violent or crazy guy, but then I'm thinking about what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, well, I've gone too far now. You know, I'm thinking about what this is going to look like. It's weird because partly like I'm thinking like about how good it's going to feel to not be alive anymore, and like I won't be feeling anything anymore. You know, I can see that they've already hit the button and they're kind of stalling. You know, and dude, I started hearing sirens coming, and I got fucking scared. All of a sudden, it just hit me. This is about to happen. My blood started pumping so fucking fast, dude. I got scared, so scared, like scarier than I've ever been in my entire life. So I just fucking floored it, drove the fuck out of there, flying on the goddamn highway, dude. I called my dad crying. I hadn't talked to my dad in some fucking years, like several years. I called my dad bawling like a baby. And I told him what I'd just done. And you know, man, it was like the first time in like the fucking forever that I thought my dad gave a fuck about me. He was just like, boy, hide your car. I'll be there in an hour. So I hid my car behind my sister's fucking trailer house. You know, it was one of those pretty shady ass parks anyways. So like, I don't even think the cops like fucking would ever go through there. My dad came and picked me up, and he drove me up to right about Oklahoma, like right at Texas border. Mm-hmm. And he had and a buddy who had like a cheap motel, you know. So we stayed there, and he, you know, I'm like, what are we gonna do, Dad? You know, and he was like, well, boy, they might not even know it was you, you know. So let's just chill for a minute. And then my mom started fucking lighting up his goddamn cell phone, you know, just calling constantly. And they hadn't talked in like more than a decade, you know. And he was like, boy, your mama don't ever call me. The fucking cops had like kicked down her door looking for me. And yeah, so I was like, what are we gonna do? He was like, well, I'm gonna go buy a fucking case of beer, and we're gonna drink and hang out and talk, and then maybe tomorrow we'll go turn you in. Maybe they'll go easy on you, you know. And so I got to hang out all night with my dad, just drinking beer and talking. And we had not ever done that before, and we'd not ever gotten a chance to do it since. He died of pancreatic cancer a couple years ago. And, you know, I think about that a lot. I got a lot of, it was like kind of one of those nights where like even though it was under really shitty circumstances, it was like I got to learn a lot about him and he got to learn a lot about me, and we were sharing a lot of stuff that had happened in our lives and the way that we felt about things and stuff. And like, I had to go to fucking prison over that shit, dude, you know? And I'd go to fucking prison again. I'd do the exact fucking same thing all over again to get that fucking night with my dad, you know? So, and I learned a lot of stuff being in prison. Like, I saw some fucking terrible, terrible parts of humanity. Some things that I pray to God nobody ever has to fucking see. I mean, it was like going to fucking war. It felt like, you know, it was insane. I was not aware. It is nothing like a county jail. It is very, very different. And, but when I came out of it, I wasn't fucking depressed anymore. I guess if you see hell, you know, every day that you're not there is fucking heaven, you know. And I actually discovered Buddhism while I was there. I read a lot, and I learned to be a lot more patient with myself and others around me. And I still had some real serious substance issues when I got out, but once, even going through that, you know, I still had a much better attitude than I did before. And so I feel like everything has sort of been like a learning process. I mean, that's what life is, right? I mean, just this one big fucking learning process. Yeah. And I mean, you can either get busy learning or you can just fucking stay like in some arrested development and not ever learn anything. And, you know, I've got things that I regret saying and doing in my life, but, you know, like the fact that I've learned from those things, like that, again, you know, that gives those things value. Like that had to happen in order for me to be who I am right now.
Right. It's
know?
Wild too, because like the experience you gain from that experience is just,
oh man, yeah, dude, it was rough. I got a lot of songs out of it, you know, and people come to me a lot, especially friends and stuff like that, about, you know, things that are like they're going through in life. And like I think, you know, I won't say I've had it worse than anybody else in life. Everybody's got it rough, you know, but I mean, I think I've got some pretty unique experiences and some pretty unique insights. And so I have you know, the fact that I can even help people or like help my friends and stuff like that. And that's one of the things too now, like I'm doing all this. I was waiting till after the holidays to really get it all together, but I'm doing all this thing. I'm actually applying for a state pardon to try to see if I can get pardoned for robbery. Okay. Because it's hindering some things in my life, and one of the things that's hindering is I've thought about it a lot, and one of the things I want to do is I'd really, really, really love to pursue being a counselor, and I'm not ever going to get licensed with having a fucking bank robbery fucking felony. Sure. You know, so there's not going to be a way for me to do that. But in the meantime, what I do is I'm there for my friends, and I'm there for, even if you're not my friend, you know, and you reach out, like I talk to people all the time that I don't even know. You know, and it's a good thing. It's a gift. It's a fucking gift to be able to share those experiences with people and like have it mean something, you know? Wow. So it's a good thing.
Did not expect us to go this
Sorry, man. I got really heavy for a minute there.
This is intense.
Yeah, I got heavy there for a minute. But I mean, it was a heavy thing.
No,
I mean, it really was a crazy experience.
I'm glad that we got to hear that story.
I could also tell lots of great road and fart stories.
Well, I mean, man, I wish we're starting to get low on time.
I got you, brother. No, man, it's totally cool, man.
No, I wanted to cover like your engineering as well as your solo stuff.
Oh, man, yeah. So I got married a long time ago. I was married for a couple of years when I was like in my really early 20s. I got married when I was 21. And about that time, I was like, man, you know, maybe I should not be touring as much and not be playing as much. But I want to be in music. So I went to Media Tech.
Sure. Media Tech.
And I actually was working there pretty quickly, too, because I'd been recording on my own and being in a band and stuff. You're always around it. And so, and just out of necessity, I'd started learning on tape like earlier and stuff. And okay, I know what a gain structure is. I know what a fader is. I know how to, you know, how to EQ. And I could compress. So I was already kind of like ahead of the game from a lot of the people who were coming in, and I pretty good at selecting microphones for what they're used for. So so they had me working there within like maybe the first couple months, and it was great. I loved working there, and then I was like, well, I might make more money if I open up a recording studio. So I opened up a recording studio up in Denton. It was called Black Bottle, and I shared the building with Brave Combo. They had the other half of the building. Mm-hmm. And I kind of did it on purpose because I love that band. And I'm always seeing them. And
is that how you connected? Was start sharing that space? Or?
Yeah, and I'd been growing up like hearing about them and seeing them at Jazz Fest and stuff. And so, yeah, Carl came over like one day and was like, "Hey, ESPN wants us to record these fucking radio beds, and Real Time's busy. Like, do you mind if we record some beds over here?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And one of the things that I'd really, really focused on is like my first day at MediaTek, I'd asked the instructor, I was like, what's the hardest thing to record? What's the hardest thing for a band? Like when you're recording a band, what is the toughest thing? And he was like, by far drums, because you're recording like 6 or 7 different instruments all at once, and you want them to sound individual but also together. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough thing to get right. Sure. And also depending on what genre you're in, they're going to sound different, Right. And there's going to be different techniques for it. So for the first like 6 months that I was at school there, that was all I recorded was drums, just constantly. And just learning that. And so when Brave Combo had come in, that was the first thing that Carl said to me. He was like, dude, your fucking drums, like dry without the mix, sound amazing. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude, thank you so much. And so like a month later, he was like, we're doing a record. How'd you feel about recording a Brave Combo record?
Wow.
Like, fuck yeah, dude.
That worked out.
So yeah, I recorded their Exotic Rocking Life album, which dude has so many of their fucking things that they're hits, which is a trip. I mean, it the thing that sucked about it, it was a shoe-in for at least a Grammy nomination because their previous 2 had been nominated. And there were certain, but that was the fucking year that the Grammys got rid of the polka category. Oh my god! So they turned a bunch of categories into a world category, which basically just meant like Enya would get like a fucking Grammy, right? So, right. So, yeah. So I mean, I was like a little bummed about that, but a bunch of those tracks ended up on like Futurama episodes and all kinds of stuff. And man, I've always loved recording bands. I've recorded tons of punk rock bands, and it's. The only thing that sucks about being the engineer is like it's a little anticlimactic because when you're doing it for a living, when the band's done with the record, you're like, see you guys, and like they're off and do their shit, and like, you don't really see where that goes, what I mean? So, but I remember with the Brave Combo one, like seeing like shit, because I did that and then I did another one for them too, and like seeing it like reviewed like an Entertainment Weekly, like in the back and shit, that was a trip. Or like, I remember I did an A&S record that was like in Thrasher magazine. I was like, holy fuck. And like, I didn't even know, I was just like reading through Thrasher, and I was like super tripped out, like, so I loved like being a part of that stuff, but and like I love doing it, and like, I'm kind of getting back more into it just because when I was a drunk, I was nobody could depend on me. Sure. You couldn't depend on me to fucking show up on time and in the condition to perform, which if you're in a punk band, you can get fucking away with it. But when you're a goddamn engineer, that's not the fucking case. No. Like, I don't care who you are. So, I mean, I'm kind of, as I've hit this new level of maturity in life, been like, well, maybe I should get back into that, so that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm kind of looking for maybe doing more.
Cool. So if you're looking to record an album,
hell yeah, hit up old Dick Haskins.
Yeah, we got it. And then I know you're kind of going solo too as well.
Oh man, dude, you know what? That's been a cool thing, man.
Is that new?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of was doing an acoustic thing on the side like before, but I've got a badass fucking solo band, dude, a backup band. I got Jenny Mac. I don't know if you know her. She's in. What's that goddamn country band she's in?
She's in Asleep at the Wheel.
Asleep at the Wheel, yeah. And she's amazing, does her own deal too. And we've been friends for a long time. I met her through recording Brave Combo. She was in that band for a while, and that's like, especially on that second record that I did for him. And I got them. Speaking of Brave Combo, Robert Hokamp, the guitar player of that band, he was playing with me, and just this fucking slayer, dude. Just master's fucking musician, just insane. Like, dude's got fucking robot fingers, but he's actually playing bass for me.
Nice.
Yeah, but he also plays a mean lap steel. So I'm kind of doing like this big eclectic thing where I'm doing like kind of rock and roll and kind of other stuff, and then kind of toning it down with like some kind of acousticy things, then bringing it back up. And I've got Connor Kent from the drumming for me. He was in the fucking 1 O'Clock Lab Band. He was just insane. Like if Dave Grohl could play jazz, like that level of like fucking just wow. Like, so I got this killer backup band, and
Is it got a name? Is this your name?
Richard Haskins, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I've been calling it Richard Haskins and the Lapsed Catholics.
Okay. Nice.
That's how I feel sometimes nowadays.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's nice, man. I've been trying to think of like other cool things to call it, but that's what ended up on the fucking flyer. It might be something different. It'll be a Richard Haskins and the Somethings.
Right. Okay. I'll think about it.
Yeah.
I used to be really good at that.
Yeah, no shit. Dude, man, you're so rad, man. You're so easy to talk to. But like, you just jabbered the whole fucking time,
Yeah,
man.
that's what we're here for. To listen to, like, meet people. I mean,
You got such a cool voice, man.
Oh,
Like,
well,
if this was like a fucking longer one, man, I'd turn the tables and start asking you questions, man.
But I wanted to, thank you for coming out.
Man, I
doing this
really
interview.
appreciate it, dude, because I didn't want to go to work today anyways.
Works out.
And also, dude, man, I'd heard some of your other interviews. They're always cool, man. Like, it's rad. And, like, we talked about it like a little while ago, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, this is definitely sweet. I hope your surgery goes well.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
I hope everything goes great, man.
I think by the time this comes out, it'll have happened. But yeah, I'm getting.
Okay,
Who needs their appendix, right?
I want to wish you luck on a great surgery, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And I want to wish you luck on the solo thing, the band, getting more gigs, the whole thing. It's basically the new you, as it were.
Man, it's great. And dude, I'll be honest, like just getting to do it, like the biggest piece of advice I could give to anybody out there is to fall in love with the actual process of it. Like, it's easy to get excited about the payoffs of the big shows, but man, fall in love with fucking rehearsing. Fall in love with fucking having to fucking update your website. Fall in love with all those little things that you have to do, because it's a fucking privilege, man. And you have songs out there, everybody who does music, you have songs that somebody needs to fucking hear, and you need to get that out there.
Yeah. All right. Good advice.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Richard, for coming.
Too, brother. Thank you so much, man.
I'd like to thank Richard Haskins for joining me. We heard Shotgunning Beers in the Parking Lot by the Wee Beasties, and you can check out more of their stuff and his solo stuff in the links in the show notes. Thank you again to the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record there. Theme song, Unstoppable by Salim Nirala. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, all the good stuff, and share it with your friends. We'll see you next time.